Thank you so much for finding Channel Core. I'm the Core, and this review channel has been a long time coming. Trailers are fair game, but I will always try to spoil a lot less than they do. Please finger that like button for me right now before you forget. And if you think my video sucks, you can always unlike it. You could even subscribe if you're interested in choosing wisely. Now without further ado, let's do 13 movies recommended by Kayla The Gore Geek. Kayla has mostly been a Facebook friend for about 4 years now, but last year on my birthday, instead of just dropping a timeline or messenger post like almost everyone else, she was awesome enough to text me personally. But then, despite letting her know I knew her birthday was coming up soon, I got busy the week of hers and missed it by a day, I think, and I still feel bad about it. Okay, the craziest thing is, Kayla's a total sweetheart who I don't think has a mean-spirited bone in her body. She's like the opposite of evil, and yet she loves the most fucked up movies imaginable. On top of that, I'm 2 decades older than her, and as a semi-super nerd, it's rare that someone so much younger is able to constantly keep recommending such awesome movies and TV shows. Stuff that I mostly had never even heard of. Whether it's an honor or not to be the focus of my first video, I must also apologize because they say your first video is supposed to be your worst. Either way, she's not expecting this, and I'm 100% sure she's totally gonna love it. So Kayla, happy belated birthday for last year, and by a few days this year. Starting with the second most evil number of all time, at number 13, Grotesque. This is from 2009. If you're looking for some Asian torture porn, this is exactly that, and not really much more. Mad scientist kidnaps a young couple while they're on a date, and the whole movie is them getting experimented on and tortured in a lab. And just to give you an idea of where it crosses the line, there's a graphic genitalia shot that you won't be able to unsee. At only 73 minutes, it's still probably going to be too much to sit through for most people. By like halfway through, I started wondering whether one of his 2 victims would turn out to be in on the whole thing, and of course I'm not going to say if I was right. Then it has one of those outlandish endings that suggests there could be a sequel, but it doesn't look like they ever made one. Alright, we got number 12, Good Boy. This is from 2022. This is about a sexy young rich guy who has a human in a dog suit living with him as a pet. He starts seeing a woman he met on a dating app, and when she discovers the human pet, he tells her to only treat the human like a dog, not a person. She hesitates on whether to stop seeing him or just play along with it, and the movie soon becomes a psychological thriller with horror elements. That's basically all I'm gonna say. The last shot is a very short, brilliantly fucked up time jump to about a year later that doesn't really answer any of the questions it raises. I doubt myself or any of my friends would have discovered this on our own, so full credit to Kayla for this find. Also, if and when you do get to this, make sure you're not watching the 2003 movie of the same name about a guy who adopts a dog from outer space. This is definitely not that. Alright, we got number 11, Brand New Cherry Flavor. This is a mini-series based on the novel, which I'd never heard of because I do like zero reading, and I've seen the whole thing at least twice and could watch it again right now. Rosa Salazar is great as Lisa, a young filmmaker whose short film gets noticed by a sleazy producer who wants to make it, but he won't let her direct. Things keep not going the way she wants them to, because Hollywood. So she gets Catherine Keener, who seems to be a witch of some kind, to put a curse on the producer. However, Lisa is forced to pay the price in the form of disgusting physical side effects, which, as much as I'd love to, I'm not going to spoil specifically. The disturbing and hideous downward spirals between pretty much all the characters involves things like hitmen, supernatural kittens, and zombies. One of my favorite things about this is how Keener's backstory, as far as who or what she is, actually gets explained. Lots of dark humor throughout this as well. I loved it. It's a pretty fast watch. Alright, we got number 10, Bad Milo. It's sometimes listed as Milo, from 2013. This is a dark comedy horror, and I'll just say it, it's about Duncan, who suddenly has a creature about the size of Yoda living up his ass, which he names Milo, who then starts killing people who piss Duncan off. It's not easy to pull off this kind of humor, and this somehow actually works. It's sad that no one seems to know about this movie, especially with a cast that includes Ken Marino, Gillian Jacobs, Stephen Root, Patrick Warburton, Kumail Nanjiani, and even the always awesome Peter Stormare as Duncan's outlandish therapist who figures out what's going on with Milo. Lots of outrageous B-movie style blood and gore in this as well. I'd heard of this, but might never have gotten to it without the recommendation. Totally awesome. Alright, next we got Violation. This is from 2020. I doubt I'd have ever seen this without the recommendation. It's about people on a couples retreat where two of the women are very competitive sisters, and there's just an insane fatal assault scenario that's cut into this on and off throughout. Yeah, it's brutal and gory, like something you might have seen in Dexter if that show was more graphic. The one big question I have, though, is whether the attack ever took place or was just in the mind of a character who was essentially full of rage and frustration. I say that for two reasons. Not that stuff like this isn't the subject of so many true crime documentaries, but this really seems out of character for the antagonist. Then the ending jumps in time a bit from when the retreat happens, and the movie never addresses whether the victim is still alive or not. It just seems oddly vague, but it doesn't allude to or make it obvious whether it was fantastical, and it's an indie movie, I'm probably just trying to give it too much credit or read into it. I did a little searching and haven't found an answer so far, at least. So if you see this, let me know what you think. I thought it was great, very tense and engaging, although heads up, it has more of an artsy ending than not. And I'm going to throw this in at the end. For people who are interested, there's a full frontal guy situation with an erection, and I'm just saying, if you're into that, you're going to be happy with it. Kayla and I joked about it, and she agreed. Hopefully that didn't piss you off to say that, Kayla. Okay, number 8, we got Significant Other from 2022. Okay, this isn't really all that heinous compared to the others on this list, and it's another one I think I already had interest in, but did watch ASAP after the recommendation, and of course I ended up loving it. A couple goes on a hike in a forest where they encounter very few people, and all I can say is that it becomes a thriller with at least one potential genre shift that you won't see coming, even when it twists more than a few times. It's clever and tense with tight pacing, very cool. Alright, we got number 7, Lords of Chaos, from 2018. Heads up, I'm going to spoil just a little bit of the Act 1 stuff. This is a biopic about the Norwegian black metal band Mayhem. They were total anarchists with hobbies that included burning churches and assaulting guys just for being gay. To set the tone, the band forms early on in the movie, but then one of them takes his own life, basically. And then before cops are called, another band member takes pieces of the dude's skull and makes jewelry out of them for the band. Yeah, true story. There is some graphic stuff in this, but by far most of it is the heavy drama about tensions between the band's leader and pretty much all the others. The most awesome, shocking, and off-putting thing about this is how brutally real some of the physical assaults and deaths are. It's one thing to not bat an eye at lots of blood and over-the-top gore, but even the nerds agreed this was kind of next level in how realistic the violence is pulled off. You don't realize just how powerfully that could affect you when it's done so realistically. Solid movie, pretty much needs to be seen by filmmakers at least. This was already on my list, and I just hadn't gotten to it yet, and again, no idea how soon I would have seen it without Kayla's recommendation. Number 6, we have Fingers from 2019. To set the tone here, this is very much like David Lynch, but maybe barely just a little less weird. And I said barely. A paranoid woman who is questioning her love for her husband freaks out over dumb shit, but also crazy shit, like how a coworker keeps showing up to work with more and more fingers missing, and he's not bandaging them along the way. Her therapist is totally self-centered, and a good chunk of this follows a couple of thugs for hire who botch an assignment, and them and the guy who hired them are just wonderfully psycho, disgusting, and off-putting. And as a bonus, the awesomely weird balls old guy from Greasy Stranglers in this. If I remember correctly, the end is somehow melodramatic, cheesy, and kinda happy, against the backdrop of some seriously brutal and sadistic shit. It's awesome. Again, another one I loved enough to put on the list. Number 5, we have Trauma from 2017. Okay, this, along with a movie called A Serbian Film, is in my top 5 most fucked up movies I've ever seen. Just to let you know how this starts, a guy is forced at gunpoint to have involuntary intercourse with his mom. We then eventually move to a secluded home where 4 lesbians party and end up basically all having intercourse. And yes, there is lots of nudity until the home is invaded by insanely brutal villains. The invasion is as raw and terrifying as it gets. Then with whoever survives, the rest of the movie skews towards female-driven revenge. I don't really need to say more about this. I loved it just for being so intense and horrifying. And if you want dark, this is for you. I might have actually had this on my radar, but I'll give Kayla full credit since I can't remember. Alright, we got number 4, Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. I don't think I ever actually saw this classic for the first time until just a few years ago, and that's because of Kayla. The setup is that a film crew disappeared while shooting a documentary in the Amazon. Authorities in the movie are watching the found footage, and as far as I can find, this is considered the first found footage movie. So it's cinema verite, documentary style, which, just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, makes it feel a bit timeless in how so many movies since then have done the same thing and have a similar look. There's lots of full frontal nudity from both the Americans and the tribespeople. And the violence was so realistic that director Ruggero Deodato was charged with obscenity and was even investigated for this being a genuine snuff film until he finally brought the actors together to do a proof-of-life interview. From a cinema history perspective, this is groundbreaking, and even more impressive are the lengths the director went to make this seem like real found footage, to the extent that the actors had to sign agreements that they couldn't do any interviews or reveal that they were alive, but of course they had to break that contract. One major warning I have to give you guys is that the animal deaths in this are real. There's 6 of them, and yes, Deodato caught lots of hell for that. As an old school nerd, I'm truly ashamed I hadn't gotten to this yet. I had of course heard of it, and I guess it just hadn't come up in conversation much over the decades, and somehow none of my nerds ever sat me down to watch it. That I find shocking, sort of. It was banned for a while though, so I'm not sure you could get it in the 80s, maybe, kind of? Okay, we got number 3, Skins. This is from 2017. This isn't really a horror movie at all. Rather, it's super bizarro shock value madness, and the disturbing characters are insanely off-putting. But to a film nerd like me, it's 77 minutes of genius. First scene is a fat old gross, fully naked brothel owner who goes over a list of her employees to a potential client, one of which is a young blind girl who wears ruby diamonds over her eyes. Other characters include a woman whose mouth and anus are in reverse positions, and a perfectly healthy young guy who wants his legs removed for no reason. Art direction and set design are also top-notch and very stylistic. Weirdly enough, there's even a few romance stories that work between some of these weirdos. And of course, I'm not going to show these for spoilers' sake, but the first to the last shot is one of the most awesomely disgusting things you'll ever see on screen. And then the very last shot is wonderfully surreal and of course, also nutso. So great. I totally love this movie. I can watch it again anytime. Alright, we got number 2, Lowlifes from 24. This is absolutely one of my new favorite movies, and because there are so many shifts and twists in it, it's almost impossible to talk about this without spoiling anything, but trust me, I'm not going to give away the main great thing about this. I promise. It's basically a clean-cut city family in an RV versus red state rednecks. And except for a few exterior and interior shots with the RV, most of it takes place in a home out in the boonies. This is as good as super dark humor gets. Lots of laughs in the wrongest ways imaginable, and lots of blood, with one moment reminding me immediately of Evil Dead 2, although this is not nearly as over-the-top and slapsticky as ED2. There's one major character arc that's cleverly done, especially for how outlandish this is. Same with the tease for at least one romance that kind of becomes pivotal to the plot. Again, can't say more. There's a fantastic line you'll remember forever that's screamed out by one character to the extent that a BFF of mine jokingly said she wanted a tattoo of it. There's no way to predict where this is heading along the way, except for maybe a few seconds at the very end where you just barely see one probable thing coming in advance. There's some very solid writing and directing here, especially for something so low budget and made by Tubi themselves, no less. I can't wait to see more from the directing team of Tesh Gudakonda and Mitch Oliver and writer Al Kaplan. Awesome. I totally love this. Another one I'm surprised I haven't seen a few more times. Okay, now we got number one, the Terrifier trilogy. The third one just came out. These are 2016, 2022, and 2024. These movies are one of Kayla's favorite things in the entire world, if not the favorite. And she just told me number 3 is her favorite so far. And I do believe she's obsessed with these, but not obsessed enough to get a face tattoo or anything like that, because she still needs to be able to get jobs and shit. These are the feature-length movies that follow director Damien Leone's ultra-sadistic Art the Clown character, who shows up on Halloween to terrorize and basically just kill as many people as he can. Although, this new one takes place around Christmas for whatever reason. He's a mime who does as much twisted, dark humor taunting as possible before ripping people to shreds in most cases. And yes, the violence is beyond over the top. It's outlandish in ways that would make Eli Roth blush. The first movie has very few locations and was made for a mere $50,000, and it's just amazing to get a movie to gel so well with that budget. The beginning and end are bookended by the story of a woman who's had her face essentially ripped off and is about to do a TV interview, and of course she's likely to be one of the surviving characters from the main story. It also has one of the most memorable horror movie kills I've ever seen in my life. You guys who've seen this know the one I'm talking about, but make sure you're watching the uncensored version because I accidentally started the censored one recently and virtually none of that kill is shown. According to Wikipedia, Leone delayed the production of number 2 so he could make the script better, which was a good call and it shows. Although some of the Act 3 stuff is a little confusing, even though it's still fun as hell to watch, and yeah, bloody as all hell. The confusion is due to things like visions of art that a dying family member had, a magic sword that's kind of hard to explain, sudden location shifts that are right out of Nightmare on Elm Street, and my suspicion that art is very much a more sadistic cross between Freddy Krueger and Pennywise, kind of. Something, I don't even know, but either way it's awesome. There's even this great, horrifying, imaginary friend character of Art's, and if you're paying close attention to the newspaper clip one character looks through, you'll see that she's probably an early victim of his. This was allegedly made for $250,000, and for what it is, a brutally sadistic bloodbath of a horror movie, it made a surprising $15 million in theaters. And then this third one recently opened with over $20 million, which is insane for something so brutally violent and bloody and super independent. I saw it and loved it, and because we're both fucked up, we laughed throughout half of it, just because it's so damn over the top. I mean, there's when I kind of gave her my review, we didn't see it together because we're in different states. There was like 3 or 4 things. We just leave voicemails. Usually we talk, but we'll leave voicemails too. And because I wanted to get it fresh when I watched it, and I was just like, okay, there's this, I will just say, chainsaw-ish moment, and 2 or 3 others. I'm just like, oh my god, you had to love this. It's again not for everyone because it goes there, but that's what makes it awesome. It's like, okay, Hollywood's gonna let you do, what they're gonna let you do. Even though there's a couple current modern-ish movies that surprised me where they went, Hollywood style. But that's the thing with this, that it's half funny, but it's taken more seriously than like Evil Dead 2, which is way over the top. But there's some of Evil Dead 2 though that's, it plays kind of straight horror and just gets a little zanier. And again, the humor with Art, where he's just taunting and like waving and smiling, and he'll like look at weapons and gesture at his victims in just hilariously sadistic ways. As far as where to find these, I'm going to attach Amazon affiliate links in the description to as many as I can find, but between all the streaming platforms, you'll be surprised just how many of them you can see for free. Okay, so for this being my first video, this is different. I do have a bunch of plans to do like lists like this or top 10s. I just did 13 because it's, you know, Evil and Halloween. But mostly it's just going to be straight reviews for individuals, so these should be a lot shorter. Well, they definitely will be than like 90% plus of everything I do. Everyone's review is biased in some way. My opinions could totally change a week, a month, or years from now, so keep on loving what you love. Please let me know below if I missed something or got something right. They say comments really help a channel, but please do it in the nicest way possible because I'm a very, very fragile man-child.